Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. If you can hear me, you can see me, we're all set for the event. We'll be using Slido, and you can already access it either by scanning the QR code that we're going to put on the screen or by joining via the website using your normal browser. So you go on slido.com and we have the hashtag on the screen, which is EY_QA. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this last online Q&A session before the closure of our call 3 of the European Urban Initiative. My name is Catherine McCarran. I'm a project officer at the Permanent Secretariat, and today I'm joined by two of my colleagues who'll introduce themselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Camille de Vries, and I'm also project officer at the EUI.
Good morning. My name is Rinka, and I'm working here at the EUI as a finance officer.
So today our focus will be on answering your last questions just before the deadline of our call 3. As usual, we'll be using Slido to collect your questions, so you're probably familiar with the platform. However, if not, you know that you can access it via your mobile phone using the QR code that we're going to put on the screen, or you can go via a browser through the website slido.com, and you can find it also using the hashtag EUI_QA. So you can ask your questions in the Q&A tab, and you can also add thumbs ups for questions that you're interested in. Please note that the chat of the meeting is disabled, so you can only ask your questions on Slido. So to kick off and to also give you time to access the Slido, we've prepared some quiz questions. So let's log in and have a look. So grab your phones, and maybe just a reminder, this is our last online Q&A. So our call, I'll tell you when it closes in a moment, but this is your last opportunity to ask your questions. You're probably well advanced in your applications form by now, but really don't hesitate if you have any remaining points you want to discuss or any technical questions on the platform, don't hesitate to ask them. It will be also very useful for people who are listening today. So let's see how many people have access to Slido. I can see that there are 3 of you here. That's great. 4. We'll give it a bit of time to have as many people as we can online. As we said, this is your last opportunity to have your question answered. So we'll take the time to make sure that we can answer as many as possible. So let's see, we have 9 people joining.
Keep it coming. There is 25 of us of you on the event. So just give us a sign that you managed to join the Slido.
Right, I guess we can maybe start with the first question.
That's it.
So, what is the submission deadline of the EUI Innovative Action Call 3? Is it Sunday, 13 October? Is it Monday, 14 October? Or is it Tuesday, 15 October? Let's see. Oh, so can you give us the right answer?
And it seems that the main trend is correct. The good answer is next Monday, 14th of October at 2 p.m.
Yeah, it wouldn't be nice to have it on a Sunday, so next Monday. Next question. So what is the start date of implementation for the project that will be approved under Call 3? Is it the 1st of October 2025, the 1st of March 2025, or the 30th of September 2025? Let's give it a moment to see what people are answering. And maybe you can tell us what is the right answer, Rinka?
Of course. I see the 100% of you who voted on this question chose the option A, which is 1st of October 2025, which is a correct answer. This is at the same time the date on which the eligibility of costs for all selected projects will start.
Great. And maybe we could add that you don't have to worry about this in the EEP because it's automatically set to make sure that your work package are starting on the 1st of October 2025. Good, fantastic. So let's see now who won. So well done, Catalit, for being right on the 2 answers and also being the fastest. That's great. We can now maybe move on to the Q&A and see how many questions we have. So as we said, okay, we already have some questions. That's great. So Well, just take a moment to see the questions that are coming, and then we'll answer the first one. Maybe we can take the one from Chris. I don't know who want to answer that one.
I can take that one.
Okay, so apart from the confirmation sheet from the main urban authority, are there any other mandatory documents to be submitted?
So no, actually, apart from this confirmation sheet that must be submitted together with your application form on the system, there is no other mandatory document to be submitted. You can, if you want, submit an annex together with your application form to justify, to explain a bit more your proposal with some maps, with some graphics. But no, with a really extensive explanation, it can't be a second application form that you submit together with the annex, but just some additional supporting documents. But this is not compulsory. Neither the partnership agreement or the letter of intent from your transfer partners. This is not something that needs to be submitted at the application stage. It will be required at a later stage during the initiation phase if you are selected.
Maybe we can mention how we access the confirmation sheets.
Good.
So like you need to go, it's in the application form. At the end, it's a last tab, and then you can generate a PDF that you print, sign, and upload.
Maybe we can follow up with the related questions related to the annex.
Okay, yes. So what type of documents should I put in the annex?
Yeah, so as I said, it's recommended to include supporting documents that will help the assessor to understand the concept of your project, some maps, some infographics, so really concrete documents, potentially some pictures, but we don't ask you to provide us with extensive studies or extensive text, because the assessor won't have time to read that many explanation on top of your application form. So really focus on one or some concrete documents that does not exceed 5 megabytes.
Yeah,
and the just to add, the character limits are there with the purpose in the application form. So don't use the annex space to add additionally explain your application for parts of your application form. That's important to say.
So the next question, we have one about cost categories that maybe we can ask Katrynka. So in which cost category do I cost a room offered as in-kind by a project partner for a meeting? It's quite specific.
Yes, in this type of dilemmas, when you have an in-kind and you have something, an asset you can offer or something, you always think about what would be the equivalent to this if I would be getting it on the market. So if you would be renting a venue for the meeting on the market, you would probably budget it under the external expertise and services. So you do the same for the room which you use, which exists already, and you use it you are not building it, you are not renovating it, you are just using it for the purpose of the meeting you are going to hold. So you can, with the estimation of a market value of such a service, you can put it under the external expertise and services.
And maybe we can take the next one of Aurora, which is also about in-kind. So a delivery partner is a university. Which cost category do I cost a study provided as in-kind?
So first, with the studies, it's always a bit more complex than with something more tangible. So when you have a study which was already, so the important thing is the study already exists as such, it was already paid for from your own or different sources. So you want to use a part of the study for the purpose of the project. You have to first estimate which part of the study would serve the purpose to contribute to the project implementation. So to serve as an asset for the project implementation, and then you need to ensure that the external assessor can put a value on this study for this project, and you have to submit these documents to the first level control together with the financial claim in which you are including this cost. And if we talk about the cost category, it's again external expertise and services.
Great.
Maybe Kathleen can take the next question from Maria. Who has to sign the confirmation sheets?
Okay, so we discussed the confirmation sheet just before. What's important to know is that it has to be a person from the main urban authority who is able to bear the responsibility to sign the confirmation sheet and say that you can go ahead with the project. So it does not have to be the highest elected member. It does not have to be the highest chief of staff or something like this, but it has to be someone who has the legal responsibility within the city or the main urban authority to sign this document.
You can take the next one, I think.
This one?
Yes. Alina.
So we'll take the question from Alina. Can you explain VAT eligibility rules for transfer partners?
So since the transfer partners are receiving the lump sum, as you saw in our guidance, they're receiving a lump sum in the value of 150,000 euros total, 120,000 euros of ERDF. There will be no request for any documents to prove what the costs are behind this. So the transfer partners will be able to finance any costs they have related to the project implementation and their role in the project implementation. So don't bother with this question, because there is no documents to prove what the cost actually incurred, and they don't have to be reported.
Great. So next one, maybe for Camille. Transfer partners lump sum, can they cover equipment, for example, buying digital tools and equipment?
So as it's stated from the question, this is a lump sum that will be granted to the transfer partners, meaning that there will not be a real check of what is financed behind this transfer of ERDF. Considering the type of activities of the transfer partners, the lump sum is aimed to cover, for instance, staff costs or travel and accommodation costs for the site visit or for the different people involved in the activities, or some external expertise costs. But I mean, if for the purpose of your transfer activities, it is a kind of cost that you need to deliver your transfer activities, then this type of cost equipment could be included in that. It's your call, because this is a lump sum. So it's really up to you to see how this will be used for the transfer activities.
Great. So can you maybe, Zrinka, you can maybe clarify for Angeliki the difference between the equipment and investment cost categories?
Investment. So yes, of course we can. There is investment. Actually, when we talk about investment, it can consist of different cost categories, among others also equipment. So when we are talking about investment costs, you have to describe the investment in the special part of the application form. Inside of the work package, you can each work package which is not a horizontal, of course, work package, you can describe the investment which the partnership wants to, or what the partner wants to undertake. In this investment, you have to estimate the full value of the investment, and this investment has to reflect, of course, in the budget. So in the budget of the project partner who is planning to do the investment, these costs have to be separated by the cost categories according to the services or goods which are purchased directly from the project partner. So if you have very often the infrastructure and work would cover all your costs of the whole investment, because there is a key in hand principle where usually you are taking the service provider who will take care for you for the whole investment and give you the ready-made solution at the end. But very often you are doing the works separately. You are having you are procuring the works components of the investment separately, and sometimes you have to purchase the equipment separately. For example, you renovated a building, but you need also the furniture to equip it. So you are going to potentially separate these two costs, and they together will consist an investment. So investment is a category which is a bit higher than the equipment, because equipment is one of the cost categories of the EU-wide budget, together with the external services and together with infrastructure and works. And those actually can consist, the investment can consist of all those services or just some of them, or of those cost categories or just some of them, as I just explained.
Thank you. We'll now take the next question from Alva. Is it possible to opt for 10% instead of the 20% flat rate for staff costing? And if so, how should this be reflected in the application?
So this is not possible. We only have one flat rate option, which is with 20%. So you have two options to declare your staff cost. Either you put them as real cost or with a flat rate. And maybe one point of attention is that you cannot use the flat rate option if in your project you intend to have contracts for which the total value will be above the threshold of EU public procurement threshold. So that's something you really need to take into account if you're considering opting for a flat rate. And in any case, it's 20% and it cannot be changed.
It's a non-negotiable, unfortunately. I can take this next one from Aurora.
Can an investment include equipment purchased by different providers? They all refer to the same output.
Absolutely. So as I said before, investment has to include all the costs related to the investment as a solution or as a concept you want to develop. Sometimes it's renovation of a building and equipping the building and stuff like this. And it can, and sometimes it must actually consist of the goods purchased by different providers. So yes, investment could include equipment purchased by different providers.
Great. And maybe the next question for Kemi, are large enterprises eligible as delivery partners?
The answer is yes. I mean, any organization having a legal personality can be involved as a delivery partner of Innovative Actions project. Of course, as any partner, they must be selected as part of the fair and transparent procedure. Maybe in the case of big enterprises taking part in the project, having potentially economic activity, pay attention to the state aid risk. Potentially, there could be a state aid risk for this kind of partners if they are covering their 20% contribution, not with private funding, but covering it with public funding. So just pay attention to that in the contribution section of the application form.
I will ask Kathleen to answer the next question. Giacomo asks us if a municipality which won a grant as an MUA in the second call, and now it has a request to be a transfer partner, can act as a transfer partner, and if there is a limit to prevent that. So, Kathleen.
So if this municipality has already been awarded a project in the second call, there's nothing that prevents you from becoming a transfer partner in call 3, as long as you're not submitting an application form under call 3, but that wouldn't be the case anyway, because to be eligible, it's important that a main urban authority has not won a project under call 1 or call 2. So basically, to summarize, to be eligible as a main urban authority for call 3, you cannot have a project approved under EUI. However, you could become a transfer partner. And maybe one point that will be of interest for other people listening, within the framework of the same call, it is possible to apply both as a main urban authority and a transfer partner. However, you can only receive funding once in the framework of the same call. So it would mean that in the event that both projects would be approved, the one that you're submitting at the main urban authority and the one that in which you're a transfer partner, if they both get approved, then you'll have to resign from one, probably the one of transfer partner. However, make sure that also keep in mind that you can only submit one proposal per main urban authority within the framework of the same call. Hope that's clear.
It's clear to us. Thank you, Kathleen. I will take the next question and ask Camille to answer it. So there are multiple persons actually interested if they can submit the project without having 3 transfer partners identified at that stage.
Okay, so basically the answer is yes. You can submit your application even if you don't have these 3 transfer partners identified in your application. Of course, the ideal scenario is to have all of 3 identified. That's how you will get the higher scoring for this transfer criteria. However, you can absolutely submit your application form without this information. What is requested, however, in any case, is that in the section C of your application form, on the transfer description, you explain 2 things. The first one is who could be your transfer partner. So even if they are not identified yet, you have to identify at least what type of municipalities, what type of areas could be relevant transfer partner regarding their own characteristics that are necessary for transfer purposes regarding the specificities of your project. So the first one is who, and the second aspect to be explained is what. What do you think are the transferable aspects of your project that would be of interest to be replicated in the transfer cities? So that's the 2 main aspects you need to develop in your application, even though you don't have these 3 partners identified. And in any case, should your project be selected, the formalization of the contractual relationship with the transfer cities will only take place during the initiation phase of your project.
Great. So the next question maybe for Zrinka from Danielle Santos. Is staffing done using FTE, so full-time equivalent, or person month?
So as we defined, and we are using the same vocabulary also throughout our guidance, the staff planning of the staff cost is done using the full-time equivalent as a measurement of work that the certain person or altogether all the staff related to the project worked in the organization, in department, or in the or for the project. So you will see that our guidance also refers to that way of calculating the hourly rate, and hourly rate is one novelty in this financing period where we introduced to decrease the administrative burden for the project partners when they're reporting. So there is a possibility for partners to define their unique hourly rates, which they're going to apply to the number of full-time equivalents, divide by 70/20 as the measurement equivalent to the full-time worked hours over the year, and they are going to be able to report it without submitting pay slips and all other different documents, which depending on the country in question would be very often used to report and actually make a very big bureaucratic burden for the project partners.
We'll take maybe the one of Oana, who has been here for quite some time. So in the annex, can we insert links to videos? Maybe I'll ask Camille to answer that one.
Yeah, this is absolutely possible as any other types of supporting document that you could bring to your annex to support the understanding and the explanation of your project. But again, it's really important to remember that all the information that are necessary for the evaluation of your project must be in your application form. So this video and this link to the video can be included in the annex, but only as a supporting element and not really a core part of the explanation of your project.
Okay, thank you very much, Camille. I will, Kat will take the next question, where Plamena is asking something about including the website. So in section C 1.4, is it necessary to include websites links to justify that the proposed solution and its main components have not been previously tested?
So you don't need to include websites or links. However, you need to be able to reference what you're saying. So you, for example, also need to explain 3 similar projects on which you're building your own solution. And for those, for example, you need to make sure that we know to which projects or to which studies you're referring to. It doesn't have to be a link, an external website, but you need to make sure that we have sufficient references, quotes to be able to find your 3 references. maybe then who would like to take the next one on sensors?
I can take the one.
So maybe I'll read it. So can climate data sensors and house screens collecting data on energy efficiency be considered as investment?
So the question is again, the nature of your solution, of course. So when you are describing your investments, there will be probably components of it, which, as we before mentioned, will be acting as equipment, which will be built into your solution. Or maybe there will be works which need to be done, or infrastructural works which need to be done around it. So when we talk about the climate data sensors and house screens collecting data on energy, that's the question is actually the nature of the purchase of this item. So if you're purchasing them as something as goods from the market, you're going to include them into the budget as equipment, and you are going to explain, if of course this is the case, you're going to explain in your investment how you're going to combine them with the other works or infrastructural works which you're going to do to serve as a solution or as a investment on the scale to which you planned it to serve. So they can be, they don't have to be. That's the question. That's the answer actually I want to provide.
And maybe it would be nice to follow up with the question from Laura, because it's very similar. So is the installation of solar panels an external service cost or an infrastructure cost? Same question for studies made before the renovation of a building activity. So if a study before a renovation would be an external service or an infrastructure cost?
In the way you describe it here, to me, both look like, so installation of solar panels is a service of itself, can be a service of itself, and the solar panels can be purchased separately, which will make them equipment. So it's possible that you are going to purchase this separately and include them into your investment, of course. Infrastructure and construction works are mostly related to building renovation, refurbishment of the buildings, the new buildings, and services like this. In this case, you have to just make sure that you are clear of what type of purchase procurement you are going to run. So if you are going to run the procurement of building something and then installing solar panels inside of this infrastructural work, then they can be included into infrastructure and works cost, but they don't have to in case you are purchasing them separately as a service of installation and the solar panels as equipment, or you are purchasing solar panels as equipment which has already built in the service of their installation. They can be also under equipment, planned under equipment. The second part of the question is related to studies made before renovation building activity. So I just suppose it's the question is about some kind of feasibility studies or building construction documentation and stuff like this. So again, you have to first, when you want to include them into the project, you have to show that the project actually needs this, that it's part of your innovative solution you want to propose. It's very, it's for me right now, if you have a study done before renovation building activity, probably it was adjusted to some other scale or other type of activities to this building. So you have to see if it matches perfectly to the needs which are defined by the project. And then you can see if you can include them. If it already exists, you are not able to actually build it into the budget because you already spent money on this, and then it can become as an in-kind contribution, of course, with the due assessment of its value by external service provider or someone who is authorized to provide such service. You can build this cost of this service provider who will assess the value into your budget, but also you can use our lump sums, which are here for preparation and initiation implementation phase, where you can also use this kind of service to ensure that your budget is ready to support the implementation of your projects by the time when you start it. But since you are in the phase of application, there is a possibility with the question related to studies, maybe for renovation of building, that you will be able to include them as an in-kind contribution.
Great, thank you. Maybe we can take the one of Laura. Kimi, could you explain the staff flat rate rule related to procurements?
Yeah, indeed. So this staff flat rate option is not available for any types of project partners. There is actually a limitation from EU rules. So the rule is that if one of the project partners foresee in their budget to rely on contracts for work, contract for supplies, for contract for services which are exceeding the threshold of procurement of the EU procurement directives, then they are not allowed to rely on this 20% flat rate option. So they will have automatically to use the other standard scale of unit cost option. So very concretely, and it's really up to you to see what kind of contract you intend to include in the partner's project budget. But typically, the partners that are in charge of big infrastructural works during the implementation of the project, this kind of partner probably won't be able to rely on this type of flat rate option.
Okay, let's take the one from Andy. So in a previous webinar, it was said that the number of partners should ideally not exceed 10 partners. And then the second question is, to what extent can partners subcontract tasks? Is there a 20% maximum?
Of course, that would be actually the question, of course, of the role of your partners in your partnership and dedicated activities. Of course, we are going to assess if the partnership makes sense to express that way. When we are assessing strategically, when we have a strategic assessment of the project, submitted project. So the partners' activities have to be supported by the budget, which corresponds to this activity. The partners have to have their roles. You have to make that sure that your partners have a role in the implementation of the project. So having a partner who is outsourcing 100% of their budget, it's actually a questionable thing during the assessment. So it will be questioned. So make sure that your partners have a real role in the project implementation, and not just to be some kind of a platform from which there will be created a subsection of the budget to be outsourced. So that would be my answer. I can ask Kathleen and Camille if they want to complement, if they think there is something needed more.
Okay, then we can take the next question from Plamena. About the number of investments. So Kathleen, you can take this one. Is there a maximum amount for each investment in each work package? Is it possible to have two or more investment in one work package?
Sure. So I think so for each investment, what's important to know is that you need to develop a specific section of the application form, which is called the investment fiche, where you will be asked to indicate more details on your investment, where it's located, what's the purpose, the link for the project, etc. So for each work package, you do not have a limit in terms of the number of investment fiche, investment description that you can provide. So you can have two, and you can even have more if needed. It's just important that it is relevant and clearly linked to the project.
I can ask the next question. I will take the question and pose it to Camille. What percentage of budget can be given for investments? Are there any balance rules there?
Okay, so there is indeed no maximum budget, no maximum percentage that we have as a rule to allocate as maximum to the investment or to any cost category. What the assessor will look at is that there is an overall balance in your budget allocation, so that what you are allocating as budget to your investment to any other cost category is overall proportionate and coherent with what you intend to implement. So at the end, it's a question of value for money. We will look at what you are proposing for what we are getting, and make sure that this is overall coherent.
Okay, I will ask the next question to Kat. can an innovation developed thanks to the project be protected by intellectual ownership at the end of the project?
So it is possible to develop some intellectual property rights in the framework of a project. What is important is that the results of the project are freely accessible and disseminated openly. And maybe one thing that we could recommend, should there be questions of intellectual property rights, we would encourage the project partnership to include those in the partnership agreement. So at this stage, when working on submitting your application form, there is nothing to worry about. But during the initiation phase, should your project be approved, this is something that would probably deserve to be looked into and potentially included in your agreement between partners on how you're going to deal with this.
Thank you.
We can move maybe now to the question of Gerard Pegana. Can we change a cost that is given as an external service now to infrastructure during implementation? In general, the projects are quite gross at this stage.
Yes, we are absolutely aware of this, and we don't expect anything more than really estimation of your costs and like very basic following of the guidance when you are dedicating the cost categories to the costs you plan. This is why we, as an initiative, have foreseen the initiation phase, which will last for 6 months before the project start date and eligibility period for the cost. So we are going to ensure that you are consulted and you are visited by the first level control auditors, which will be national experts on the legal questions related to the costs and to the costs which you planned in your budget. And they are going to, together with us, they are going to be able to consult you to make the necessary changes in the budget as it was found necessary during this initiation phase, to ensure that the first condition for eligibility of those costs is met and that you can start implementation with having them all in the right cost categories.
The next question from Andy is about the scoring system. In the guidance document, the scoring system is not that detailed. Is there a place to find a detailed breakdown of the scoring, Catherine?
Yes, so actually the guidance document has the exact selection criteria that are used by external assessors and by the Permanent Secretariat to assess proposals. So it's the exact same template that we use with the grid, with scores going from 1 to 10 under each criteria. And maybe if we can take 2 minutes to describe a bit the selection process. The first step is done on the strategic description of your project by an external panel of assessors who are selected because of their specific knowledge. They're all expert either on energy transition or technology in cities, and they will check the first part of the grid and the first part of your application form. And that's maybe why it's important that you spend really enough time developing your strategic description, because they will only read that part to do the strategic assessment. And then it's a yes or no. So either you continue to the next step of the assessment, or this is where you stop. And then we have the operational assessment, again, based on the same criteria than the one that are indicated in the guidance.
For the next question, Rinka, we have something about the travel and accommodation costs. So in the budget, are the travel and accommodation fixed at 5% of personnel expenses, or is the 5% of personnel a maximum, but a lower amount can be budgeted?
So we have flat rates, all the flat rates in our budget if they are used, and the only one which you don't have to but can use is a flat rate for staff costs. So we have office and administration fixed, and also travel and accommodation fixed at 5%. So the system will, in the application or in application form of our monitoring system, it will be automatically calculated from the staff costs. So this is the basis for calculation of 5% for travel and accommodation is staff costs. Since the partnerships are usually in the projects of EUI are usually local, we don't expect a very long travels among the partners. So we ensure that this 5% actually corresponds to what your need might be. It might be a bit more, a bit less, but in any any case to simplify things and to, again, ensure that you are not burdened administratively to report on this. We calculate with a flat rate, which is automatically calculated and paid out to the project with the financial claim according to what is the level of staff costs reported in this claim.
Great. Maybe the next one will be for Camille. Would it be acceptable to have more than 10 partners duly explaining the need of having them for the implementation?
The answer is yes, that's absolutely possible. Actually, there is no formal limitation as to the maximum number of partners involved in the project. This notion of 10 partners is mainly a recommendation on our side because we realized from experience that having more than 10 partners in the partnership may be a bit more difficult for the partnership in terms of management, in terms of reporting, and so on. However, if this is the actual number of actors that you need around the table to implement your project, and this is well justified and explained in your application form, then of course this is absolutely possible.
Okay, thank you, Camille. I will ask a question to Kathleen. Aurora wanted to know if its participation in EUI events as capitalization and dissemination activities is covered by the EUI lump sums.
So your participation to events organized by us will be eligible in your project budget. You can actually claim them as real cost under, for example, the communication work package or management, depending on where it is relevant for your activities. There is no lump sum as such related to this. However, it's true that you will have budget linked to provided as lump sum for your initiation stage or preparation stage. And basically what you will do with those funds is a bit up to you. So it's as you want. Either you can declare them as real cost or you can use the lump sum to pay for those.
Thank you, Kathleen. I will ask next question to Camille. Who needs to sign the confirmation sheet? Is it sufficient in the administrative authority, for example, the director general or of the city signs it, or who should be the appropriate person?
Yeah, so the person who has to sign the confirmation sheet must be a legal representative of the main urban authority. So meaning someone who is entitled to sign on behalf of the main urban authority. So if in your city administration, the director general of the city is entitled to do so, then it's perfectly fine.
Okay, the next question would be was submitted by Maria. Can I submit the application form and then revert before the call deadline?
So it is possible to do that. You can submit the application form and revert as long as you do it before the call deadline. But, you know, make sure that you don't submit at the last moment. And if you keep reverting, just make sure you don't miss the deadline because it's in the system, it's blocked. Like the deadline is, as we said, Monday, 2 p.m. Brussels time. And it's not a joke, it's really blocked. So make sure you don't miss out on the 2 p.m. deadline.
Yes, and we are sure that's the same rule is for any other EU funding structure you already applied for. So it's really closes and you cannot submit it. So make sure you do everything what you need to do on your application form before the deadline of the call.
Yeah. Don't live on the edge.
Exactly. Thank you. I am going to ask Camille if the city under 50,000 inhabitants can be a transfer city.
Yes, that's possible. Actually, for the transfer city, there is no requirement in terms of size, in terms of number of inhabitants. What is requested is that the transfer city is an urban authority, so the same categorization as for applying as a main urban authority, being a degree of urbanization of code 1 or 2 according to Eurostat, but it can be with a number of inhabitants below this threshold of 50,000 inhabitants, and it's even recommended that in your partnership, in your 3 transfer city, there is a variety of sizes within your 3 transfer partners.
Great, and maybe we can take Jane's question for Zrinka. If a delivery partner or the main urban authority is developing an online service as part of the project, should this be listed as an investment or just staff cost for the time?
Okay, I see this is by how the question was formulated. I would say the delivery partner in this case, or MUA, is someone who has the capacity to develop the online service as part of the project. In that case, they will account, this is their target or their main activity type of this organization. And in this case, we would propose it to be budgeted under the staff or any other resources which they need for development under the appropriate cost category. We consider the investment being mostly the parts of the solution which include some infrastructural work combined with other stuff of other costs which might bring the solution to independently actually function. So in this case, I would suggest to be budgeted under the staff costs and including all other potentially needed resources. So if you need equipment to purchase for this purpose, you would also add the equipment in the budget if they are targeted. It's purchased to target the innovative solution to become alive, let's say so.
We'll take the next question from Maria for Camille. So how important are delivery dates in the work plan?
So delivery dates are really important in your work plan. First, because this is what will demonstrate that your project is realistic from a time perspective. The assessors will pay a lot of attention to the logical time sequence between your different activities, between the different work packages. So do not hesitate to include cross-references between interconnected activities to demonstrate that you paid attention to the logical time sequence between the different work plan elements. The delivery dates are also really important to demonstrate as well and make sure that there is a sufficient buffer after your activities. For instance, after the delivery of an important investment, it's important for us to make sure that there is sufficient time before the end of the implementation period so that you ensure a good operational phase of your project. And then finally, the delivery dates are really important because at the end of the day, the application form and your work plan will constitute the roadmap for the implementation of your project. So it's really important that from this stage, at the application stage, you make sure that you have delivery dates that are as realistic as possible and that you anticipate everything that can be anticipated from a timeline perspective, including the different procedures that you may need from procurement, but also from the administrative and permits.
Great. Then we'll take the question from Jane, which I assume is about in-kind contribution. So if the main urban authority will use some investments in the city works as the 20% contribution, how do we describe this and what level of details?
So I would start suggesting first to have a very, very good description of how this works, which are apparently happening with or without projects. I would say so in the from this description that they contribute to the project objectives, which are set in the application form. So first you have to make sure that fits, that these investments which are happening fit into the project, the innovative solution, or the framework of the project, which contributes to certain specific objectives which you developed for your project. You have to, so if the works are not planned to be included, so you don't want to use the budget of the project to support this investment, you still have to enter the part of this works and all the costs inside of the budget to ensure that first level control can check this part of the budget. So all the procurements, everything related to the part of this works which you want to use as a cash contribution have to be entered into the budget as if you would be using the budget, because budget is planned with the total budget principle, which means that the budget consists of 80% of the budget which will be supported by ERDF or by the initiative, and 20% which is used as an own contribution of the project partner or partnership as whole. In this case, if you have investments which were done before, So they are already finished. You already paid for these works. You can use parts of this investment as probably as an in-kind. I don't know the nature of the specific case, but you might be able to use them as an in-kind contribution in case you have them assessed by external expert. Their value was assessed and was entered into the project. You have to have, of course, all the documents ready, but not by the time when you are applying, but later in the initiation phase, you have to cover this 20% which you entered. And in case these investments are happening in parallel with the project, you have to ensure that first that this investment in its nature contributes to the project objectives and that the costs were entered fully as if they would be planned in the budget to be paid from ERDF contribution.
Great, thanks. And we were thinking with Kimi, it would be nice to follow up with Aurora's question. So do we have to add a mention like cash contribution or in-kind contribution in the work package budget description, or is it enough to describe those in Part C?
We strongly, very strongly recommend, not recommend, we order you if you want for us to be clear what you are planning as costs and to be able to assess it in the proper way, you do the both. So you include them in the Part F of the application form, separately you list them there, and you include at least a small note somewhere in the budget that this is a part of the cash contribution or in-kind contribution of the project partner.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Let's move on now to another question related to the target group, Kathleen. In the section C.2.3 of the application form, target group, do they need to match the indicators we are setting?
They don't need to match, but it would be really nice if they did. So we would really encourage you to make sure that there are some result indicators that reflect the involvement of target groups. It's also a nice way to make sure that you use the predefined indicators that have been selected by the European Commission. If you go in the terms of reference for each of the two topics, energy transition and technology in cities, you have predefined indicators that have been selected. And among those, there are some that refer to target groups, to the number of citizens involved in participatory process, the number of stakeholders that have been consulted. So things like this, you don't take the wording that I'm saying exactly because it might not be the exact wording, but there are some nice indicators that would allow you to capture the target group. So it would really be a pity if you don't use them.
And especially if you have more indicators matching your the needs of your target group, so your target describing your targets, if you are more showing that you contribute to the topic of the call as it was intended, because they are selected based on that also on our side. So it would be really good for them to match. I will ask a next question to Camille. When does the partnership agreement need to be signed?
So the partnership agreement between all the partners of the project does not have to be signed at the application stage. It's a document that will have to be worked on and negotiating between the partners once the project is approved. So this partnership agreement will have to be prepared and signed by the different partners during the initiation phase of the project. This is not a requirement at the application stage.
Let's see, maybe we can take Giacomo's question.
If you want,
you can take it.
Read it. Can the AUA have a population under 50,000 inhabitants?
So yes, this is possible. What's important is that it's considered as an urban authority that is either urban or suburban according to the Eurostat classification. But it is possible that one city, one associated urban authority, or even the main urban authority has less than 50,000 inhabitants. In this case, you need to make sure that you have several urban authorities coming together as a grouping to make sure that together they reach the appropriate level, the appropriate threshold of inhabitants, which is 50,000 inhabitants.
And 50,000 inhabitants in the urban area, which you are going to follow the guidance and establish how this is actually found to be done.
For the next question, we'll take the one of Giacomo. Drinka, the 5% of travel and accommodation expenses in respect to personnel must be allocated in the same work package. in which it is allocated to the personal costs.
Exactly. That's a good, maybe good definition. You are going to, as I said before, you're going to be automatically, if you, when you enter the staff cost in each work package for each partner of its budget, when you enter a staff cost, it will be automatically calculated 5% as a travel and accommodation cost expenses flat rate.
Maybe let's take the one of Oana. For transfer, is it advisable to transfer 3 different components or all the 3 transfer partners to transfer the same and follow up on adaptation?
Well, actually, it's really it will really depend on your transfer cities. Each of the transfer city will have a different interest in following your project. Probably, maybe that will be the same component, but maybe that will be depending on their own context, or their own cultures, or their own specificity. There will be different parts of the project that will be an interest for them. So that's really something that will be defined together with them when you will kick off the partnership with your transfer partners. They will have to develop their own roadmap for their transfer journey. So that's something that we'll define at a later stage once the transfer cooperation will start. So it could be 3 different components. It could be the same aspect. It really depends on them.
Thank you, Camille. The next question, again, related to transfer partners. Do transfer partners need to be defined at the application stage or later?
So no, you don't need to have the exact transfer partners that are defined and finalized at application stage. What we need to understand is what are the types of urban areas that would be good, relevant transfer partners. What's the motivation and the rationale behind selecting those as transfer partners? Is it because they are facing the same challenges? Is it like they're in the south of Europe, they're facing heat island effects, and how you're going to select them? Transfer partners will have to be selected at maximum during the initiation stage. However, if you already know who your transfer partners will be, make sure that you indicate them in the application form. It would be a shame not to do that.
Thank you, Kat. We can continue with Aurora's question. An example of what to write in external expertise and outputs in the transfer work package. There is, I guess this is a part of the application form.
For this one, if I'm not mistaken, there is no need to, because here I understand it's the budget descriptions.
If it's a budget.
I don't know, but I mean, in the work package transfer at the application stage, there is nothing to fill in except the summary box of that work package. So there is no need to further elaborate on that, because this work package transfer will have to be designed and built with your transfer partners when they are formally selected and once the transfer cooperation will start. So,
and of course, not to forget, we are going to provide support to all the projects with their transfer components. So you're going to be able to meet the experts hired by EY to help you with developing your transfer component. So if you are thinking about the external expertise and outputs, I'm not sure if this is a good, maybe it's just a missed.
Just maybe one thing regarding the transfer work package. Indeed, you cannot modify it apart from the summary box. You can, however, allocate the partners who will be working on this transfer work package. So you need to add the main urban authority and other partners who potentially will be involved in the transfer work package. And this will open the budget section. So in the transfer work package, you will be able to indicate, and you should make sure to reserve some budget for the other partners. So the transfer partners will have their lump sum, and that will be automatically done in the EEP. However, you need to make sure that you foresee budget for the main urban authority and potentially other delivery partners who will support you in the transfer work package. But as my colleague said, you don't need to detail the exact cost category, and the activities anyway are blocked.
Fine. Let's take another financial question on in-kind contribution. As the main urban authority may offer a building in kind, and the EU contribution will be up to 80%. It's not clear how the difference of 20% will be covered in monetary terms.
So 20% of own contribution, partners' own contribution, in case there is a partner who is investing their buildings, their building or buildings into to support the delivery of the innovative solution. or the outputs of the as an output of the project. So you might use the existing building which you have already as your asset in your balance sheet. So what you need to do for the project, you first need to again estimate what part of the building, if not the whole building, is going to be worked on as a part of the innovative solution. So you have to estimate this, and then you have to hire an external expert or authorized authority to estimate the value of this part of the asset. Then you have to enter this with the value which was attested by the external expert assessor. You need to enter it into the budget in the dedicated part of it probably will be infrastructure and works. You have to add it into the budget as with describing the amount you want to use as an in-kind, and put the note that it's an in-kind contribution. And then in the part F of the application form, you have to again add it there and say, we as a partner XY are using this asset as which is owned by us as a 20%, up to 20%, or if it's worth, or if the value was estimated for more than 20%, one partner needs, you can also offer it to other partners to cover their part of the own contribution. So either a whole 20% of some partners, or part of a certain percentage of their own contribution. So monitor it in monetary terms. This value, which is estimated by the external or authorized authority for assessing the value of this property, will be used as a monetary equivalent to enter it and use it as a 20% of own contribution instead of a cash contribution, which will be a regular or otherwise used. So you would have to actually use other cost categories to cover them in the monetary terms as a own contribution.
Thank you, Linka. We now have a question from Pamela about the ownership of the project by the main authority, which corresponds to the section C.1.3 of the application form. Kathleen, is it necessary to prove this at some stage with supporting document or through public consultation? Because there is an issue of the character space.
Okay, thank you for that question. So just this box refers to the ownership of the innovative solution by the main urban authority. Here we're looking we're seeing ownership more as a nearly philosophical term. The idea is that we want a city-led project. We want that the innovation that you will be testing really answers the needs of the city, of the general public, related to a challenge that they have. So we're not talking about an ownership that you can prove with supporting documents. So it's not something that you will be checked on. It's really to demonstrate in the narrative and how you present your innovative solution that this is something that is relevant for the city as a public authority, that it's really answering the need, and it's driven by the city. It's in the sense that the project will be led by the main urban authority, and that the innovation that you will be developing is really for the city and not developed for example, a third party who will be a private company or something like this. We want something that is meaningful and relevant for a city as a public authority. Let's see. Maybe we can take one from Maria. We've already talked a lot about annexes, but maybe Camille, you can answer that one. Do I need to add investment documents to the annexes?
So as we said before, the annex is not something compulsory. It's really something that you can provide on top of your explanation already provided in your application form. But indeed, it can be useful if you have an investment to provide some maps of where your investment would be located in the city, or some plans of how your investment would look like. So some additional supporting documents, but not replacing the content that you will explain about your investment in the core of your application form.
Next one.
Okay, so the one from Aurora.
Yeah.
Okay, description for external expertise and services is required in the application form for transfer partners in their work package. Is it an error of the platform?
No, it's not an error platform. You can only, at this phase, you can only actually write down that the lump sum is applied to this, which is true. So you can enter this as a only text, and it's going to be acceptable for us, since there is no need for any further elaboration what you're going to use the cost, especially not in the phase when you still don't even have to define your transfer partners.
Let's take that question from Jane. So if the main urban authority is providing a larger own contribution to cover other partners, how do we show this in the work package budget?
Okay, so first, indeed, it's possible for the main urban authority to cover the contribution from some other partners. It must be made really clear in the work package, but in the contribution section of the application form, stating that this part of the contribution will be covered by the main urban authority. And when it comes to the work package budget, then, unless it is in-kind contribution, there is no need to make specific statement that this is the MA covering for that. But if it's in-kind contribution, then you are requested indeed to explain which type of contribution it is. If it's an investment, what is the nature of this investment of this equipment? I don't know, Zika, if you want to add something.
Nothing more than I think among the materials which we use for our workshop so far, we gave a really good example of how this has to be described. So I think you can. Kat can maybe confirm if you can reach them on our website or only for the participants. If you participated in any of the applicant seminar.
I think the documents, presentation and all documents are available on the website.
So try to go to search it from, and you will see a very good example. But as Camille said, they have to be the larger own contribution to cover other partners can be shown on the part F, and also has to be scattered around the budgets of the partners who are going to use it as such.
Just maybe we can just take 2 seconds to encourage you to submit your last question. So it's now 11:06, so we still have some time to answer your questions, so don't hesitate to keep them coming. And maybe in the meantime, we can take Giacomo's question.
Yes, besides signing the main urban authority, are there any other main probably signing? Okay, this signature of the main urban authority, probably, are there any other documents for the partners to sign?
No. At this stage, there is no other document that partners are required to sign. This will be done later if your project gets approved.
Okay, I propose we ask Camille a question about the project scores. If a project scores well, but there is 1 or 2 parts that are not clear or even appear inaccurate, is the project disqualified, or do you ask for clarification?
Yeah, so unfortunately, you have to do the job very well from the first submission. Your project will be assessed on the basis of what is written in your application form. So make sure that what you are describing is clear, consistent, and understandable for an external reader, that you pay attention to, and that you use the application form courtesy document where you can find on the info bubble on the system that will explain you in details what is expected under each section of the application form. Pay attention to, in the work plan, to have all the elements coherently integrated, interrelated, to make cross-references so that the external assessor understands well your proposal. Then, if your project is good enough to be selected at the end of the operational assessment, you will have the opportunity during the initiation phase to fine-tune your proposal to make it as clear and as ready as possible for the next stages of the implementation of the project. But our recommendation is really to make sure that your application is perfectly clear and consistent.
Thank you, Camille. We can continue with the next question. I would ask Kat if she has any other information about the future calls. We are already now reaching the point when the questions are a bit more targeting the future. So do we have any information about the future calls, and do we know if the eligibility criteria will be the same?
So we do not have any information about future calls. What we know is that call 3 will be the last call in this format in terms of the current format that we have developed for innovative action. So call 3 will be the last call that we know of in this current format.
All right. Maybe we can take the question from Oana. Zvinka, if there is a risk of the investment to be considered equipment being object, how do we clarify it? In which section?
So if there is a risk of the investment to be considered equipment, you describe your investment in the part where you requested to do so to connect it to the work package in question. There might be you are going to estimate your budget, as we said, and then you're going to go into the budget to actually dedicate this investment value to different cost categories where it should be dedicated to. So if there is the investment, as you thought it is going to be investment, something's going to change, or you are afraid that it's going to be labeled as equipment by the first level control. Your question is where do you clarify it? If there is a risk, you clarify the whole investment description. You can clarify in the investment part of the budget of the actually application form. So under each work package, you're able to create a specific section which is called investment. And besides the total amount of the value of the investment, you can describe everything related to it, as how it's going to contribute to the specific objectives, to how you're going to use it in future, how is it innovative, and everything what you need to give. If there is your problem is how to now label it under the proper section of the cost categories. If you think the whole investment goes into equipment, you just put it under equipment of the project partner, and you described with the character limits of 200 character limits you have there. Since you described the whole equipment already in the special section, there is no need for a big description there. In the budget, you can just refer to the description in the investment under the investment data sheet, and we are going to refer it when we are checking the value, if the value seems to be realistic.
Great. Let's now take Daniel's question. Kathleen, if I want to submit declaration of project merit recognition by hiring stakeholders, where should I mention them in the project description?
So, I mean, I guess this is very specific, but I would recommend that you indicate this in the section C.2.1, which is about the wider group of stakeholders. So if indeed in the wider group of stakeholders, you have organizations who said that they are clearly interested in the project, this is where you should mention it. And if you have like a formal document, you could consider using the option of adding annexes to share this. That's what I would recommend.
Thank you, Kat. We are approaching the end of the questions. So if you have any more, you can still write them if you want. And we have the one for Camille. Is there a too low number of partners? Is there a risk of having too low number of partners?
Well, so as we said before, there is no maximum number of partners obligation. There is no minimum threshold either. So it's really up to you to define the appropriate number of partners that you need to have in your project to deliver your solution. However, it's true that having too limited number of partners may be a risk of not having sufficiently all the important actors around the table to deliver your project. So really make sure that when selecting the different partner organizations joining the main regulatory team delivering the project, that all the necessary competencies, all the necessary expertise is in the partnership to deliver the project. We often recommend you to pay attention to have representative of the quadruple helix, so representative of the public sectors, of private sector, but also university and civil organizations. So try to pay attention to this recommendation and make sure that everyone that needs to be involved to deliver each component of your project is part of your partnership.
Oh, and then Daniel said, sorry, missing section number. No worries. It was C.2.1. Great. I think we're reaching the end of today's online Q&A. So thank you all for your questions, and note that if we have missed one or if there are any unanswered questions, we will answer them via email to registered participants. Just before we leave, we just wanted to show you the ongoing support available. So everything that you need to know is located on Call3 page. So here you have the online guidance, but also, as Rinke mentioned, all the resources from previous applicant seminar, application form workshop, etc. Everything is on the same page to make it simple and centralize all the information. If you have any last minute questions, you can also email us at innovativeaction@urbaninitiative.eu. We'll answer them over weekdays, of course, but don't hesitate to ask your questions. And finally, we have like one last little favor to ask you. If you could fill in the short survey to provide feedback on the Q&A. Even if it's the last one, it's always nice to hear your feedback and think about how we can improve and make it better for next time. So that we'd be really grateful if you could just spend 2 minutes doing this. We'll leave it live for a short while after the meeting. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you, Kimi and Rinke, and also our colleague who were backstage. Thank you for your participation and good luck for the application form. You still have a couple of days left. Don't forget, Monday, 14 October, 2 p.m. That's the deadline to submit your application form. And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.